Hello guys, I am back from another video today about what if Belle was able to summon heroic spirits, or had the ability to summon heroic spirits. So, in the last video we talked about how, and actually let me explain why I'm making a video pretty late, sort of. It's because, apparently the electricity had decided to gone out again, and decided to just poof, out of nowhere, basically gone. Apparently there was something wrong with the electricity lately, and so I had to make this pretty late. So yeah, so continue on. In the last video we talked about how, after Izuku left with the rest of his heroic spirits, specifically Melusine, Emiya Alter, and finally Burgeist. After leaving in their large carriage, they would start moving towards some different areas of the Demonchi world, which were mostly, just normal. Except, they were told that they're not allowed to go to a specific area, where that was supposed to be the used to be, way to go to Aurario, which now is being controlled by a monster, more specifically a monster that's quite powerful. After being told of this, Bell, because he has a bit of a, personality change, mostly being a bit cocky, would decide to just try and go there instead. Mostly because he wants to check out, his skills and basically fight the thing. And after arriving at the, large ass, ghost town, he would see, the town is completely deserted, filled with nothing but, empty buildings. And after walking around, he would see in the middle of the town was a large looking church. But when he was about to, go close to it, Emiya would basically tell him to get out of the way. And so after getting out of the way, he would basically tell him to basically go behind them. And so after doing so, even though he's a bit reluctant, Emiya would activate his noble phantasm, Unlimited Lost Works, which when he did, he would fire off a bullet, and after doing so, a large scream would be heard in the large ass, building, aka the church. And Bell would also ask him if he can make him one too. So, after being told of this, and after hearing the large ass scream from the, church, a large explosion would happen, and they would see a large looking gorilla like creature with wings, almost resembling a monkey from, or the flying monkeys from, yeah, I can't remember the actual, story, god dang it. It's been a long time since I actually heard that story, so, if you can tell me in the comments what it is, then, that would be appreciated. And after doing so, the monkey would start charging towards him, as Bell would activate, his sort of noble phantasm, even though he doesn't know the name of it, because, he's sort of like in the MASH situation. He doesn't know how to, use the actual ability of his full noble phantasm to its, to his, fullest extent. Because of this, he would just decide to just call it, Prominence Burn. Because, at the time I forgot to give it a name, so, yeah, I'm just gonna be calling it Prominence Burn, even though it's technically a noble phantasm of one of his heroic spirits, specifically, Witchly Lapochly. And so, after doing that, it would create a large cross made of fire, and it would kill the monster instantly, turning it into a monster core, and after explaining what it is, they would decide to, set up camp here because it's now safe. After doing so, all of them would basically fall asleep, except for one of them. Because, technically, heroic spirits can't really sleep, it's more like, a thing to basically, pass the time. And after doing so, they would basically go in shifts. And so, Belle would basically fall asleep, and the next day comes, they would start leaving the ghost town, finally arriving at a normal-ish, village. After arriving there, they would decide to, live in an inn for now, instead of, sleeping in a, in their stupid tent. After doing so, they would basically, go into the thing, and would basically ask for, for a room. And the weirdest part about this village, well, it's mostly filled with, either demi-humans, like, for example, elves and things of that sort. Because Belle is not really human, and instead, a half, heroic spirit, or actually, let me just check out the term for it. Yeah, it's not pseudo-servant or, demi... Actually, yeah, it is a demi, servant or demi-heroic spirit. After, because of that, they sort of think that he's probably some sort of like, sort of demi-human. Or some sort of like half-elf or something. And after basically registering into the they would decide to get some sleep. After waking up and smelling the good ass food that, Emiya's making, they would basically go down all the way downstairs and would basically eat the food that Emiya made. After that as well, they would basically be the next day, and then a few days later, they're going to be going to, to somewhere else, specifically, finally going to Arario. And so, after, going around the town, basically getting some souvenirs and some food rations, they would hear the sound of fighting, specifically from a large ass man with bear like ears and a large hammer, fighting against a boy? But for some odd reason, this boy seems to be wearing a skirt. As this boy was not a boy, it was a flat chested girl with silver hair and, brownish eyes with a weird looking blue tattoo on her face, which resembles some sort of lightning bolt. After seeing their fighting, Bell decides to, step in and would basically stop the fighting. As when the man saw him, he would basically laugh him off, saying that he's just nothing more than a brat, basically trying to fight a large boulder like him. But Bell would obviously, decide to insult him, which made him pissed off and would decide to attack him. After basically dodging out of the way and basically just like, beating him to the ground, basically, doing a little slash, and would basically cut him up in several places, including his junk, which now he's basically neutered. Oh boy, I forgot to say that part. He would basically, fall to the ground instantly. As after telling the girl if he wants to thank him or something of that sort, well, she would basically say that she doesn't really need saving. After all, she is part of the, Loki familia, which he was pissed off at. And also quite intrigued. And after the fight, one of his heroic spirits would basically ask him why is Loki there, and they're quite terrified knowing that Loki's there because, if you probably know, in Fate Grand Order, let's just say gods are not really good in Fate Grand Order or any type of Fate lore all that much. Let's just say that. And after explaining that Loki in this world is not really their Loki from their world, well, thankfully they're basically sighing relief, but also quite worried. And so, after also explaining the whole, familia system and things of that sort, well, they decide to, end off the day to basically get some sleep so they can prepare to basically leave the town. And so, we basically ended off the episode right there. So yeah, let us talk about what happens next, boys and ladies and gentlemen. So, we see Bell currently, woken up as he's basically preparing to basically leave with the rest of his heroic spirits. As while they're basically packing everything up, he would start to hear the sound of, unbeknownst screaming for some odd reason. As when he looks towards the direction of the screaming, including some of his heroic spirits, he would see, the most ridiculous sight imaginable. He would see a few twins, specifically with dark skin, one of them not really twins, one of them has a significant difference, if you get what I mean. and the same girl, aka the same, wolf girl from last time, but now, sort of naked? Yeah, let's just say that. She seems to be wearing, just a towel, and, a dwarf, basically, currently about to be hanged. Yeah, as after Belle sees this, Belle would say, "What the fuck is going on?" As one of them would say this, "I don't know, but I think they're probably doing something that we shouldn't, interfere with." As the wolf girl saying about, "You bitch for daring to basically, watch on me while I'm taking a shower," or something of that sort, was probably the reason why she's basically doing this. It's probably because of the perverted, grin on the dwarf's face right now. As currently a girl with a stoic face with blondish hair would basically come out saying, "Can both of you just be quiet for now?" As when, a certain, dark-skinned boy over there, aka, Emiya, saw her, he would say, "Wait, is that our," as when he was about to say that, Belle would say this, "Wait, that's, as after saying her name, which her name was Eyes, well, one of them would say this. Who the hell is Eyes? Said, one of them specifically, Burgeist, as Belle would say this. You do not know Eyes? He would basically say, as everybody would just like shrug their, shoulders a little bit, as Belle would say this. She's a sword princess, aka the strongest swordsman imaginable. After hearing this, Burgeist would say this. Really then, she would say. Now I really want to fight her, she would say. As Belle would say this, no, do not fight her, and besides, if you were to fight her, you're going to be doomed. As she would say this, come on, master. I meant, Belle, trust me, I'm pretty strong. As Belle would say this, yeah, sure, but anyway, we should probably, start preparing to leave now. As one of them would say this, yeah, Belle is right, said, Belle sighed. As while they were basically, preparing everything, one person would seem to be watching them. Specifically, a girl with, ginger hair and with bluish eyes. She seems to be watching him. And her most notable feature was her pointy ears. Basically, signifying her as probably I meant half elf. God dang it! English. God dang it. So, while she was watching Belle basically, grabbing all of the stuff there, and by the way, at the time, he was basically wearing, some pretty tight clothing to the point that it's basically, showing off some of his, developed muscles. Which, while she was staring at him, the girl seems to be blushing ever so slightly when she's seeing him basically, grabbing some of the stuff, as his muscles will start to flex every time when he carries like a big, crate of, let's just say food or rations or another stuff or something of that sort. So, as Belle is basically finishing up, packing everything in the, packing everything into the carriage, Belle would say this, alright guys, let's leave. As everybody would say this, right, and so they would start leaving. As nearby, we see, the rest of the, Loki familia there, basically preparing everything as well as they would start leaving. So, we go to Belle and, the rest of his team basically, going on their merry way to, Arario. And if you're wondering on the vote, well, it seems that the winners are, is the winner of this, vote was the Hestia familia. I mean, I wasn't really, happy about it, but either way, I mean, pretty happy. I'm not really happy with that, with it, because I wanted, Loki to win this time, but I guess this time it's for, Hestia's sake this time. So, yeah, and I was also planning to basically make, one of the characters from the Loki familia specifically too, to basically join, his, relationship. Yeah, I'm gonna make it a three-way ship, not, a harem this time, okay? So, and if you're wondering though, the servants are just going to be like family members than anything else, okay? Good. So, as Belle and the rest of his, I guess you can say, sort of family would start leaving. As they would start, going around, a large forest, as while they were going through the large forest, he would start to sense, somebody is basically, watching them. As Belle would say this, hey guys, as everybody would hear his voice, as, one of them would say this, what is it, Belle said, Emiya would say that, as Belle would say this, I sense some people basically watching us, better prepare. As everybody would say this, right, as they would basically get ready their weapons, including Belle, as Belle would basically grab something. It resembles a flintlock pistol, but the end of the barrel seems to be almost reddish, as several lines of red marks, almost resembling veins, would start, seem to be, pulsing with red energy. As Belle would say this, never really tried a gun, can't wait to try it out. As Emiya would say this, yeah, it's a pretty good design, even though it's probably going to be powerful enough to basically destroy a god, or at least their gods in this world, or whatever he would say, or maybe even a high-class adventurer or something. As after Belle hears that, he would say this, okay, thanks for the information, I guess. As they would start to hear the sound of, moving bushes. As after a few minutes, a person would basically come out of nowhere, seemed to be wielding a broken sword, as this person was some sort of skeleton monster, with a monster core in his chest. As he would start screaming, basically getting ready to stab into Bell, as Bell would basically say this. Now, let's try this out. As he would fire his pistol, as the pistol would shoot on the top of its head, like a headshot, as it would explode into millions and upon millions of dust, as it would start, instead of instead of the actual body basically falling towards the ground, instead, it was just the monster crystal. As, Melusine would basically jump in and would basically grab the monster crystal. As she would see a few of her opponents basically, specifically the, skeletons basically wielding spears, and they seem to be on the ground, as she would see this. Alright, I guess it's my turn then, she would say. As Melusine would basically go to the ground, as she would start punching all of them, as the almost scabbard-like gauntlets would start turning into blades, blazing almost similar to a certain Gundam from a certain Gundam franchise. I can't remember the actual name of the Gundam. It basically has like a beam saber type sword, but it basically has an actual blade, and the blade is basically or the edge of the blade is basically made out of I can't remember the actual name of that beam, or the beam saber blade, or specifically, or you basically get it, as it would start slashing at them. As after doing that, all of these skeletons would basically explode, turning into monster crystals, as she would say this. They don't really even stand a chance, she would say. They didn't even stand a chance, she would say, God dang it, my dumbass. As after doing that, as for Emiya would start using his, guns, shooting at every single one of them. Basically, shooting all of them with his, pistols. As he would combine them, creating some sort of double-bladed, kind of like a double-bladed, staff, or, a glaive, as he would start slicing through them with, like a hot knife to butter. As after a while of slicing through them, he would basically stop, as all of the skeletons would basically just turn into dust. As for Burgeist is basically having a wild time, basically swinging her blade like a mad monster. As while she was slashing, several of the dark reddish, almost darkish material would start slashing through them, creating more and more slashes into the skeletons' bodies, as she would start creating something from her hand. As she would raise it up, as this thing was chains, as these chains would start slashing through them, basically capturing them and basically ripping them, basically ripping their skulls off, or their heads off, to be more particular, because they're basically skeletons, they literally, you can literally just call them skulls, or rip their skulls off, or whatever you want to call them, but I'm just going to be calling them heads. So, after a while of doing that, Burgeist would stop, as she would say this. I think that's all of them, Master. As Bell would say this. I think so. As Bell would basically say, as he would basically be done slashing, not really slashing, but more like, shooting the rest of them down with his, flintlock pistol, as Bell would basically put it back in his, holster. As he would say this. Alright guys, we should probably start to get moving now. It seems that they're, blocking away some of the, path. And I can also probably sense that we're going to be meeting more of those guys soon. So be prepared in case if there are going to be more, or something of that sort. After saying that, they would basically, say, sure. And after that, they would start moving, moving through the path again. So, after a few minutes have gone by, they would decide to take a rest for now. It was already nighttime, so it's better to basically, get some rest. And so they would set up camp in a nearby clearing. As Bell would basically, set up the tent. As for, Emmy and the rest of the rest of his heroic spirits, they would start helping out making, dinner. As for Bell, after finishing up the tent, he would start smelling the delicious, food that, Emmy is making. As after, finishing off his, fine work, aka the tent, he would look over and would see Emiya basically finishing up the dish. it would seem to be tonkotsu. And Belle would smell it and would think, ah, Emiya's cooking is so good, he would say, as Belle would start going towards, towards him, as he would say this. Hey, Emiya, you done? As he would say this. Ah, finished. Here. As Belle would be given a bowl of tonkotsu, as he would start chowing it down. As he would say, whoa, it's so good, he would say, as Emiya would say this. Thank you for that. Now, everybody dig in. And all of them would basically, go into their, sitting position as they would say, Ikitakimasu, as they would start eating. So, after finishing eating, Belle would say this. I'm full. As everybody else would say this. Yeah, we're sort of full now. And so, they would basically, turn off the fire. Or sort of, they would just put it in a lantern. As for, the rest of the heroic spirits, like for example, Emiya and also, Melusine, they would decide to go to sleep. And as for Burgeist, it's Burgeist's turn to basically act as like the watch this time. And so, Belle and the rest of his heroic spirits, except for, Burgeist, would fall to sleep. So, the next day comes as everybody is basically, getting out of their, getting out of the tent and would start, preparing, to basically leave the area. After, taking their tent and also some of the cooking supplies, they would start leaving to go on their merry way once again. So, they would start going through different areas, specifically some towns, which were pretty much fun, and some, some landmarks, like for example, a large, tower or, abandoned tower, which was said to hold a powerful sorcerer, and many other types of shit. So, after a while of basically going through these, this path, they would arrive at a large field. A field filled with flowers and beautiful, scenery. As Belle would think this place is pretty good to basically have a bit of a, painting competition. Or something of that sort. Or a picnic. As Belle would basically, decide to stop, basically telling everybody to basically get out. As when they got out, they would see a nearby tavern nearby. And they would decide to basically eat there for this time. And so, as Belle would basically, arrive at the tavern, he would basically knock on the door as he would see a drunken person there. He seems to be a dwarf, as he would say this. Hey, come in! You're allowed to come in if you want. The bar's over there if you want. He would say, obviously seeming to be drunk, as Belle would say this. Huh. I never thought a person to be drunk this pretty early in the morning, he would say. As after, going inside with the rest of his heroic spirits, they would see a lot of people having a merry old time. Basically eating some delicious food, like for example mashed potatoes, and some others basically having a bit of conversation, some even making deals, and some gods basically, there to basically, recruit some, people to their side, or recruit them to their familia. So, as Belle would just be there, basically in the, tavern, he would basically ask for the tent, or the, tavern keep to basically give him some food. As for the rest of his heroic spirits, he would also ask for some food. And so they would be given, some chunks of like turkey and some mashed potatoes on the side, and also, a special type of sauce, which seems to be gravy in, in the eyes of like Emiya. As he would start eating, thinking that it's pretty good. I mean, not as good as like Emiya's, but still. As while they were eating, they would start to hear a conversation nearby. So, they would start to hear a familiar voice, and this familiar voice was, Hey, let's hurry up and go. I really want to go back to Loki already. It's so boring. As one of them would say this. Just be patient, Bet. Besides, we don't really want to, disturb the other patrons, said a boy with blonde hair, and a blonde boy that seems to be quite, young, with blue eyes and wielding a spear, as he would say this. Yeah, you should probably listen to, her. As he would point towards a girl, specifically Heinz Wollenstein, as she would say this. Yeah, you should probably listen. Besides, if you disturb the other patrons, it would probably start a fight. Especially last time. As she would say this. Oh, come on, they were disturbing me. And, they're absolute perverts, she would say. as a girl nearby, aka the girl that seems to have, ginger hair and bluish eyes, seems to be drinking some ale nearby. As the dwarf is currently, conversing with some other dwarves, as he would also notice another elf, but this time not a half elf. This time she seems to have greenish hair like all elves, sort of, as she seems to be talking to some other people nearby. Seeming to be, inversed into conversation, mostly talking about spells and other types of stuff. As he would also see the girls from last time, aka the two girls with the tan skin, or sort of tan skin, as he would realize that these two girls were Amazonians, or Amazons, as they're currently talking to some nearby people, basically talking about, their experiences in, in the Loki Familia. As Bo would watch them, he would just think, huh, what a coincidence, basically seeing them here. As he would basically push that thought out of the way, as he would start, continuing eating. Continuing eating up his, dish. After a while of eating, he would start to hear, a sound of fighting again, as Belle would say, please don't tell me it's them again. As, his servants would say this, Belle? As Belle would say this, what is it, Berggeist? As Berggeist would say this, look over there. As they would see, the girl again, aka the girl that seems to have, wolf-like features, once again, basically fighting against a burly older man with, with a large-looking sword, seeming to be compensating for something to say the least. As he also seems to have a lot of battle scars and and one, blind eye. As he would say this, pretty little girl shouldn't be, doing man's work, he would say. As she would say this, don't you dare underestimate me. After all, I am the strongest adventurer in the, in the Loki Familia. After saying that, one of them would say this. Specifically one of her members. No, you're not. That's eyes. As she would say this. Oh, shut up, she would say. As she would basically get ready to basically fight, as her hands would start being engulfed in flames, as she would say, don't ever try to fight me. Got that? She would say, as she would start charging towards the man, as she would basically punch his sword. But, the sword would basically block her attack, as she would say, what? How? As she would say this. He would say this. Take this, as you would slam the sword onto her face, as it would cause her to basically be flown across the room. After seeing this, Belle would say this. Do I seriously have to save her again? As one of them would say this. I think so, said Berggeist. As Berggeist would, after saying that they should probably, save the girl, Belle would say this. Yeah, we should. As Belle would basically, decide to walk in, as the guy would say this. Huh? Oh, hey there, Pipsqueak. As after saying that, Belle would say this. You shouldn't be, hurting a lovely little girl like her. I mean, that's really rude. As he would say this. I'm just doing my job. After all, girls like her should not be allowed to basically become adventurers. I mean, they're probably gonna get, let's just say a bad time. As after saying that, Belle would say this. You surely are quite pathetic. After saying this, he would say this. What? What did you say? As Belle would say this. Well, I mean, fighting against a defenseless girl like her, well, that certainly is quite pathetic. As he would say this. Why, you... Don't you dare say that to your superior, he would say, as Belle would say this. Superior? Don't make me laugh, he would say, as he would basically pull out his pistol, as he would shoot it towards the man's armor, piercing his armor and shooting towards almost near his, heart. As after doing so, he would be flung back, a few, meters off, off the ground, and would basically be thrown, across the room. As he would be knocked down instantly, as everybody would just look at him, saying to themselves, how is this guy that strong? As Belle would say this. Lovely little thing. Lovely little gadget. Anyway, are you okay again? He would say, as the girl would say this. You? How are you? As Belle would say this. It's pretty weird for you to basically be following me. Or at least, I think so. As she would say this. There's no way I'm following you. You're the one that's following us. As Belle would say this. You really think that you can actually, you know, do you really think that I'm following you? I mean, you're pretty, but as she would say this. What? She would say with a, flustered tone, as Bo would say this. Anyway, I should probably start leaving. And by the way, for being a member of the Loki Familia, you're pretty much a troublemaker. As she would say this. Duh, don't underestimate me, she would say. As she would start charging towards Belle, as Belle would say this. Sunburst. After saying that, a huge, huge, blast of fire made out of this almost purplish, substance would basically be flown across the room, as would cause, Beth to be flown across the, room as well. As she would say this, how? That was powerful. How did I get defeated by him? She would say, as Belle would say this. Is that obvious? There's stronger opponents than you. And besides, I'm much more superior than you, much more superior than you, than anything else, she would say, as Belle would say this. You, she would say, as currently nearby, another girl would be watching them. AKA, one of the, Amazon twins. As the one with the somewhat flat chest would just be, in awe seeing his power. As she would say, I think I found the perfect husband, she would say. And so, after saying that to herself, she would basically start looking at Belle with, somewhat with an interested look. As Belle would say this. Well, I guess that's enough of talking with you. I mean, I should probably start leaving. Hey guys! As, the rest of his, heroic spirits would say, yeah? As Belle would say this. We should probably start leaving. After all, we should probably start getting to Aurario now. As after saying that, they would start leaving, saying goodbye to the girls. Or, to that girl. As, currently in her mind, she would say this. That snow rabbit, she would say to her mind. As currently, another girl, aka, the girl with the, ginger hair would say this. Whoa. He was able to stop Bet-sama, she would say. He's quite powerful and quite the looker, she would say, with a blushed face. As currently, one of the Amazon twins, aka the flat-chested one, would say, I think I found the perfect one for me, she would say. As after that, currently with another girl, aka, Ainz. As Ainz would say this. Quite the powerful opponent. I want to fight him, she would say to herself. As currently, a person, aka, the blonde-haired boy would say, he's quite strong. I wonder if he's a part of Familia yet. I wonder if he's a, member of Familia yet. Or something of that sort. I should probably tell, Loki-sama very soon. And so, we basically see Belle, once again, basically packing up all of her things as they would start leaving to go to Aurario. And so, we're going to be ending this episode right off here. Sorry, guys. So, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!